first. How do you feel? Are you optimistic that a fair trade deal will be reached here soon? And what would that look like to you?
Yeah, thanks, Errol. We're certainly optimistic. Everything seems to be trending in a very positive direction. This is, for us, an interim deal. This is a country-to-country deal. Our real deal, the big deal we're looking at, is the USMCA renewal, and that involves Mexico, of course. And so we want to see the temperature come down. We want to see constructive conversations at the negotiation table, and then orient ourselves towards that bigger North America deal, which we think is a win-win-win for all three countries.
And so is that what this is really about? Lower the temperature and get a better deal renewed between the US, Mexico, and Canada? Because if imposed, a 50% tariff would affect, what, $20 billion worth of Canadian products. And that would be damaging how exactly?
Yeah, the 338 tariff that was supposed to come into effect this week, that's under the old Smoot-Hawley Act. And so it would have targeted very specific industries, many of them small and medium enterprise. And for those businesses, of course, that would be an existential problem. They would have to lay off workers. They would have to maybe even close their businesses based on the importance of the US market to those businesses. In terms of the broad macroeconomic or aggregate effect on the Canadian economy, it would have a small but meaningful impact. So we don't want to see that. It's needless. And the conversation that seems to have taken place this week in Washington is not just addressing the concern around the 338 tariff. It's also bringing down some of the sectoral tariffs that were introduced last year under the 232s.
Canada did threaten to retaliate, though, with levies of its own. I'm sure that as time has gone on, and this is now Mr. Trump's second presidential term, Canada has learned somewhat how to negotiate. But what would the economic ramifications be if this did not move in a more optimistic direction, if it became, again, a bit of a global trade fight?
Well, and that's what we've been living with, honestly. The lack of certainty for business, that can be quite toxic. And so what happens is businesses sideline capital. They delay decisions on opening a new facility, hiring new workers, or making those important capital decisions that businesses have to make. And that's the environment we've been in the last, say, 12 to 18 months as this trade war and these trade irritants have taken root. What Canada has done in response to that is both take a hard line on negotiating, but also say, you know what, America is our biggest customer, and what's bad for business is losing your number one customer. But what's also bad for business is only having one customer. So we've started a trade diversification strategy to say, as a country, as an economy, we will be stronger, we will be a better partner if we're not as exposed to what we now perceive as risk. So this week's been a great week to see the body language, to see Ambassador Greer out there talking about a North America strategy. We're really happy to see that. We want to see this deal get done, but we're still oriented towards that broader diversified strategy.
Yeah, really interesting details you're providing there. Matthew Holmes, thanks for being with us with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah.